respond better to Cornell
Yeah.
than they did with O'Brien. But I actually liked your video about O'Brien. I think O'Brien got a wrong deal.
Yeah, and a lot of people like misconstrued what I said, like saying he was a good coach. I'm like, he's an average coach. He was 52 and 49, but like my question is, if he was such a bad head coach to begin with, why would you bring him in to begin with, like the following year? Like when you just fired him?
Yeah.
So he wasn't. In my opinion, I don't think Bill O'Brien was as bad as people saying he was. But I will admit that Romeo Crennel has the team fired up and playing behind him pretty well. But nonetheless, man, I want to talk about the game. So you guys beat us in overtime, 42-36. I think Derrick Henry, they call him King Henry now. He's got, what, he had 2 touchdowns, over 200 rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's sick. And, like, honestly, the Titans at 5-0, like, I'm not going to lie, I'm impressed because I think they're better than what they were last year.
Oh, without a doubt. And, you know, and I know this whole COVID thing happened with them, and unfortunately that happened. You know, I was surprised at what we did with Buffalo because I was expecting, okay, we barely had like maybe 2 days of practice, and I was expecting Buffalo to come in there and just, I was expecting Buffalo to beat us. And then, you know, with today's game, one thing I noticed about today's game in particular is division games are tough.
Yeah.
No matter what your record is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're 13-0, 0-7. Division games are always like tough. And I knew this was going to be a dogfight. Because I knew the Texans were going to come in there with that attitude of, we got something to prove. You know, we're still, because the Texans won the division last year. You guys have won the division quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you guys had a lot to prove in this game.
Yeah. I think we won our division like 3 out of the last 4 years or something like that. So, and I wasn't expecting us to win, but I wasn't expecting us to keep it this close, like to go to overtime. When we were down 21-10 at halftime, I'm thinking in my head, okay, that's probably gonna be a blowout. Like I'm expecting Titans probably go up another 2 scores. We'll probably score another touchdown in garbage time minutes. Now, like I said, I was at work, so I didn't watch the game. However, one play I wanted to talk about that was crucial was the fact that the Texans go up, I think, 36-29, and we had an opportunity to kick the extra point and give it an 8-point lead, but instead, I don't know if it was Romeo Crennel, the offensive coordinator, or whatever the case is, elected to go for 2 because they figured, well, y'all are going to come back down and score, but we want a 2-score lead. And, like, I thought at that point, and I'm not saying Ryan Tannehill's, like, you know, a great or a bad quarterback, but, I'm thinking I want the extra point. So if y'all do score, I'm going to force Ryan Tannehill to go for 2. And like, to me, I felt like the Texans made a big mistake in choosing to go for 2. Like, I just felt like they tried to get greedy, and it ended up costing them at the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think if they would have done that extra point, like, you know, and they would have forced our hand. You would definitely forced our hand, and you guys did play well. I mean, that one throw that Tannehill did was just overthrown in the fourth quarter there. I mean, I thought, oh, man, once he threw that interception, I was like, this game's over. Texans got it. That's what I was thinking. I was like, this is over. But, I mean, I think with the Titans, I mean, there's some Titan fans who thought we should have went for 2 right before overtime, and I'm like, no, we made the right call by going for a field goal and then sending it to overtime.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you have some fans right here who are like, we should have ended it right there. We should have ended it right there. I'm like, okay, well, say, for example, we went for 2 and you guys stopped us.
Yeah, and you didn't make it, then you'd be facing the same scrutiny we faced when we should have kicked the extra point.
Exactly.
So really it was like we try to get greedy, and then if y'all try to get greedy, like 2 wrongs don't make a right. Like just kick the extra point, send it to overtime, and then you guys ended up beating us. I think Derrick Henry ran in for the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, I just read a statistic that the Titans are the first team in NFL history to have a rusher go over 200 yards and a passer go over 350 plus.
Wow. Who was y'all's passer?
Tannehill. Oh. I think they said Tannehill for I think it was like Tannehill in the same game. Actually, no. In the same game, wasn't Tannehill. It was Deshawn Watson, Derrick Henry. That's the first time we've ever seen a game where there's been a 350-yard passer with Deshaun Watson.
And a 200-yard rusher. Wow, that's sick. Ryan Tannehill didn't have a bad game either, though. I think he had 1 interception, right, and 2 touchdowns?
3 touchdowns, I think 4.
No, four.
Yeah, it might have been 4. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But that 1 interception he did, I knew what they were doing with the slant. I see that, he was trying to go with that slant right here. And then when he was like, I guess that receiver just misstepped and Tannehill overthrew it. But like I said, when I saw the interception, I was like, Texans got this.
Now that you guys are 5-0, man, y'all are playing Pittsburgh next week. That's going to be a very good game, man.
Pittsburgh's defense right now is, I think they're the best in the league, aren't they?
Yeah.
Defense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking for Pittsburgh to come in hungry. Ben Roethlisberger playing lights out. Look like Ben Roethlisberger's playing like he was a rookie now.
Yeah.
Like he's younger. I mean, he ain't lost. Looked like that injury last year. He ain't lost a step. This is a make or break game for us because now, if we show that we can beat, we show we beat Buffalo, but if we could go and beat a really good team like Pittsburgh, that puts us in a really good driving seat. But this game with Pittsburgh and Tennessee is not going to be a high scoring game.
Wow.
Honestly, Pittsburgh's defense is going to cause some mayhem. The Titans' offensive line is better, but they're still having a little bit of problems. Like you can see guys hitting Tannehill right after he throws it.
Yeah.
Which kind of concerns me a little bit. And plus, we've been without some players due to the whole COVID thing. So hopefully we're in full force against Pittsburgh because we're going to need it.
But who would have thought Ryan Tannehill, after the ACL tear he had in like a non-contact play when he was in Miami going out of bounds, everyone said, his career's done. Like that, 7 years in the league, at that point he's done. Then the following year, I think he comes back, doesn't have a really good season. And then he's let go, and the Titans pick him up, I guess, off a trade or whatever. And I'm thinking this guy is basically like another Marcus Mariota or Blaine Gabbert. Like his career is on the back end. He's a backup career quarterback. Who would have thought that Ryan Tannehill, in his 9th year, would be having the numbers he's having with the Titans?
I didn't think it when he came, man. But now we're starting to realize that maybe it wasn't Tannehill. Maybe it was the system that he was in Miami. I mean, maybe it was a little bit of Tannehill, but I think a lot of it was the coaches that he had. And the one thing I love about Vrabel is Vrabel makes the Titans believe that it's us against the world.
Sort of like Belichick.
Yeah. He makes them believe that, look, everybody's out to get you. No one's giving you respect. No one's talking about you. No one's talking about us. And he makes them believe it. And Tannehill just fits with this system. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have one of the best running backs in the league behind you. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have that. But I mean, he's got receivers. I mean, he's got AJ. We got Brown.
AJ Brown. They got in the 3rd round. Yeah.
Corey Davis is starting to. This is his last year on his deal. Right before he had the COVID, he was starting to evolve here. Right before that happened, and Juwan Smith. I mean, we got rid of Delaney Walker there in the offseason, and Smith is coming in, doing really good as a tight end. So, I mean, we still got the pieces, but I think if this is the time is now. Like, if we could beat Pittsburgh, say this when they end the season after next week, if we beat Pittsburgh, we'd be sitting right there with home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Dude, that's big. And let's put it like this. You got the Steelers, you got the Titans, and then the only undefeated teams left in the AFC. And then, of course, with respect, you still got Kansas City lurking, Baltimore lurking, Buffalo Bills sort of lurking in the shadows. You got 5 teams in that fight, and who would have thought the Titans would be one of 2 of those undefeated teams remaining?
I did not think that. I mean, when I first saw their game against Denver, I was like, wow, all those field goals missed. We barely got past Denver. And then I'm like, okay, we go against Jacksonville. And usually at home, we blow Jacksonville away, and Jacksonville gave us a fight. And I was like, okay, I'm a little concerned here. And then we got that 3rd win. I'm like, okay. Then the whole COVID situation happened, or as they say in YouTube, call it Kobe. And that whole situation happened, and then I was like, oh man, we got Pittsburgh game is gonna be fell back. Now we're not gonna have it. See, now the Titans got no more bye week now, so now we're at that point position too, and then when they came in there and they single handedly beat Buffalo the way they did, I was like, okay, all right, these guys only had 2 days of practice. But the one thing I noticed during the Houston game is we did look tired.
Mm-hmm.
Playing a Tuesday game and not really being able to practice, because we still weren't really able to practice.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say about Houston, and I really, really, really don't understand why this guy does not get the respect he deserves. Deshawn Watson is a stud.
Yeah, he is.
And for people to sit, I mean, I've seen some fans on there say, "Well, Deshaun Watson." I'm like, Deshaun Watson. You get the right tools around Deshaun Watson, he could be just as good as Lamar Jackson, or sometimes even good as Mahomes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and that's a really good thing about him is that now the one big play that I noticed too was when Malcolm Butler was guarding Fuller.
Yeah.
And they got that touchdown. I don't know what the hell Butler was looking at.
Yeah.
But Fuller burned him. And I mean, I look at it like this with the AFC South. The one thing I know about the AFC South teams, you can laugh at Jacksonville, you can laugh at the Colts, or you can laugh at the Texans. People laughed at our records before. But the one thing I will say about this, when you get the AFC South teams facing each other, it's a dogfight.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, it's a dogfight.
I still think it's going to come down to you and the Colts. I mean, I'm not going to say the Colts are completely out of it, but they did beat the Bengals today. I know you guys haven't played them yet. When do you guys play them? Do you know?
Thinking a couple of weeks. What it is, we got the Colts at home, then we face another team away.
Okay.
And then we face the Colts away. So we got the Colts and then another team and then the Colts. So it's like Colts are almost back to back, actually. So
damn, that should be very interesting. Like I said, you guys got Pittsburgh. Do you know you play after that?
Just gotta go back and check the schedule. But I know we got Chicago.
Ooh.
We got the Bears coming up. I know we got the Browns coming up.
Oh, that's gonna be some tough games.
Then we got Cincinnati. We got Detroit away. We got Green Bay away in December.
Ooh.
So, I mean, this stretch is not going to be easy toward the end.
Damn.
It really isn't.
As long as y'all take it one game at a time. But if y'all beat Pittsburgh and go 6-0, man, I think y'all might run the table and win like 10 or 11 in a row.
Well, the last time that we went 4-0, it was 2018, and we went 13-3. That was the last time the Titans went like undefeated, like 4-0, and then went 13-3.
Nice.
But, I mean, honestly, though, the way I see it, though, it doesn't matter like what our record is. We can have home field advantage. You still got to respect the Chiefs, and you still got to respect Mahomes. And one thing I noticed about the Texans in the playoffs last year and us, we had leads on them. We both did. Both our teams had leads on them. And so the one thing with the Chiefs is you gotta knock them down. Once you get a lead on them, you gotta keep them down. And the Steelers. The Steelers scare me. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, their defense is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin's one of the best coaches in the league. Ben Roethlisberger's got some points to prove here, and if I was Bell, I know that Bell left the Jets. If I was Bell, I'd go back to Pittsburgh. Honestly, I would.
Might as well.
I mean, yeah, might as well. I mean, like, I know he's looking at Buffalo and Kansas City, but I'm like, dude, you don't see this team over here in Pittsburgh? I mean...
Oh, no, Le'Veon Bell, he signed with the Chiefs.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, he signed with the Chiefs. Forgot about that.
Well, if he signed with the Chiefs, then, hey... It's probably... But then again, though, Bell is not really as good as he claims he is, so... That's right out there.
So you think his best days are behind him?
Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you something. Did you expect your team to be this good this year?
I expected us to be better. I mean, like, every year, the last couple of years we went 9-7, and I've always knew that we were better than 9-7. I at least thought maybe 10-6, 11-5. But this time around, I thought we were going to be at least 11-5. I thought that. I mean, a lot of people thought, the Titans had that Cinderella run. They're not going to do it again. And they're basically showing, no, This is real. The good thing we did was we did re-sign Tannehill. I know a lot of Titan fans here in Nashville were wanting us to get Brady. I'm glad we didn't do that.
Ooh.
To be honest with you, because I mean Brady's Mr. Pick Six. I mean, now.
Well, he did kick the shit out of the Packers today.
He did. I heard about that.
Yeah.
But Tannehill was the right fit for this team, and us getting Derrick Henry at a really good price that we did.
Yeah.
That's one thing about J-Rob, our general manager. He likes to keep players around, but, keep them around for... Now, the one thing I will say about Clowney, Clowney is a very disruptive guy, and I know he was good with with the Texans, and I know he was good with Seattle. But,
yeah.
I still think that he signed on too late. I wish he would have signed during training camp and been with us for a little bit.
Yeah, and train with the team.
Hang with the team, get his condition in order and stuff like that. I mean, he's still being disruptive, but, I mean, for 1 year, for like $12, $15 million, I don't know if that was necessarily the right thing to do or not. So.
Well, I mean, you could have that veteran presence, down the stretch when you need him, like on a crucial third down or fourth down,
He's definitely a disruptor, and that's one thing about him is definitely a disruptor. And I was going to ask you, what did you think about hearing about those reports about Bill O'Brien and J.J. Watt getting into a
yeah, allegedly like J.J.'s like rallied up the players against him or something like that. Like they were like pissed off at Bill. Like, look, I understand like if it like maybe I wasn't in the locker room because I wasn't. To know that kind of stuff. Maybe if the turmoil was that bad, I can understand them maybe pushing the button. But I just figure if it, again, I just think it was just unprofessional to fire him 4 games in the end of the year. That's just what I think. But I mean, if J.J. Watt, if what they're saying is true with the whole turmoil thing, then I can understand why the McNair family or Cal McNair would make the move and press the button. So I guess it is what it is. We needed a new voice in the locker room anyway. I had a feeling after this year they were probably going to get rid of Bill anyway. But we just needed a new voice in the locker room, and everybody thinks I'm going to rant and scream in this Crow video because this is a Crow video. I'm not going to because the Texans played a hell of a good game today.
They did.
Both teams played a really good game today, both offensively and defensively. It went right down to the wire. The game was in the 30s. We even went to overtime. We went above and beyond.
The Texans gave me a little bit more gray hair than usual now after this game, but it's okay.
Well, man, at 5-0, man, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like I'm still like thinking Ravens and Chiefs, but now I'm thinking like, well, damn, what if it's the Titans and the Steelers at the top? Because, well, currently you are. I'm thinking like, man, what if the Titans sneak in and get the number 1 seed?
And the playoffs are going to be different this year too, because now you only have one team with a bye.
Yeah, and that's the number 1 seed.
This is going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot different now, and so I mean, the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want Kansas City to get number 1 and be all the way in Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Don't want that. You don't want that. And so if I'm Pittsburgh, if I'm Tennessee, if I'm Baltimore, you do everything in your power to make sure that you're ahead of the Chiefs.
Facts.
As much as possible. You're better off beating the Chiefs in Pittsburgh. Even if it comes down to Pittsburgh and Kansas City in the AFC Championship, Pittsburgh got a chance if it's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean that's one thing you got to do. And the one thing about the Bill O'Brien, I wanted to bring that up to you is it wasn't the coach Bill O'Brien that got fired; it was the general manager Bill O'Brien that got him fired. Like when you make a trade and you get rid of your best receiver and you send him to the Cardinals, I think if Bill O'Brien would have stayed as just a coach and they would have just had a different general manager,
yeah.
Probably would have been a different story.
What a hell troll job that would have been if Bill would have got fired as head coach, and then they're like, the general manager, Bill O'Brien, would like to speak on the firing of head coach Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
And he comes in, he's like, we had to make a move I thought was best for the team. So I fired Bill O'Brien as head coach, and I'm now going to demote myself as general manager to become the official head coach.
I don't really think that I really don't think Romeo Cordell is the right guy either. I mean, honestly, Romeo Cordell is. I mean, to me, I feel like Cornell's coaching is behind him.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think what the Texans need someone young, vibrant, like, that could come in there and kind of like a Matt LaFleur in Green Bay and, like a Mike Shanahan in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I think if you guys get someone who's really, really full of energy.
The head coaches I know we're looking at right now is, what's that name? Urban Meyer. And we're also looking at the head coach of the Clemson. That would be nice.
Urban Meyer I know very well because he used to coach the University of Florida, which he used to beat up on my balls a lot.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, if we can either hire Urban Meyer or the guy from Clemson, I wouldn't mind, man. That would actually be a pretty cool upgrade, like add a college feel to it, because Deshawn Watson played over there for Clemson, so that would be a really kind of cool fit,
I mean, I don't think Nick Saban's ever going to try to NFL again.
I think he's got too much with Alabama, and he's got TV deals, and he's got the number 1 seed every year going in, or top 4 seed. Man, the college got it rigged for him. Man, it's just too much to turn down for him. Like, I wouldn't do it.
And whoever would have thought that we would, honestly, I did not think that you guys would be. I didn't think the Texans would be at the record that they're at. I thought you guys would at least been maybe 3-2 right now.
I picked the Titans to win the AFC South this year. I did, and it looks like I'm right.
The Colts is going to be a different ballpark for us. We split the series with them last year, and we split the series with you guys last year, the Jags. I think if the Titans really want to make a statement, they got to win this division and don't do splits. Like, you need to go in there, you need to take the Colts by the throat, beat the Colts, and then 2 weeks after that, go back in Indianapolis and beat them again. I mean, that's the statement that I think Tennessee's got to make. And if you're Buffalo fans, I hope you found Josh Norman, because I know he was flying afterwards. I hope you guys would find him afterwards, because that was a vicious stiff arm.
Dude, that's like that old Madden 2004 hit stick when you press L1 or R1 on the Xbox and he just stiff arms him. That was that move. So let me ask you something. So the Titans are 5-0, and I know you got Pittsburgh. What are the keys to winning that game?
Keys to winning that game is we gotta see if you gotta make a statement on their defense. The first thing you got to do is make a statement. If the Titans can get on the scoreboard first, make a statement against that defense. Second thing you got to do is you definitely got to put pressure on Roethlisberger. And Roethlisberger is very good at going out of the pocket, because Roethlisberger can be a good pocket quarterback, but he can also get out of it. So you definitely, the one thing I think is you have to put pressure on Big Ben. Then you got to make a statement by scoring early and often against that defense of Pittsburgh. I think if you can do that, then you make this kind of a fight. You're like, okay, now this is going to be a dogfight. But I know Mike Tomlin, and they're going to be that Pittsburgh defense. They're going to be waiting for Derrick Henry. Without doubt.
I don't know how y'all's run defense is, but I know that the Steelers ran the ball on us in the fourth, and it killed us with James Conner. That guy was pretty good, man. He was like running all over us, dude. We couldn't stop him either.
I'm more concerned about our pass defense because Dory Jackson's still out right now.
Okay.
And we don't have Logan Ryan this year. And Fulton's a good. Don't get me wrong. Fulton was a good pick in the draft. And I know Butler's coming off that injury that he had last year. He got 2 interceptions against Buffalo, but I think if we get a Dory back in there, maybe. I mean, we got one of the best free safeties in the league in Kevin Byers, but
yeah.
I still think that our pass defense is the weakness of that defense. And I know Big Ben is going to, if you let Big Ben tear us apart, we're not going to, it's going to be a long day. Long day.
Yeah. And again, well, you got two veteran quarterbacks because Ryan Tannehill's been in the league 9 years, but one thing I guess Ben Roethlisberger's good at doing is he's good at extending the play. And with Ryan Tannehill, if you can provide enough pass protection, like in the pocket, he's pretty good, man. He's a pretty good pocket passer. If the offensive line is holding well for him,
The Titans are very good with that play action. And
Yeah.
That's one thing that Tannehill is notorious for. But the play action only gets good if Derrick Henry gets going. Derrick Henry don't get going. The one thing they got to do is they also got to learn that, even after Tannehill throws the ball, you got to learn to protect him because I've seen him take some hits. And I've seen him take some hits that were like, oh, gee, no. I hope he doesn't take those kind of hits, but I think if we get in there and we make a statement early and often, that's what you got to do with Pittsburgh. You just got to make a statement.
Well, you know who?
Pittsburgh's going to come in there.
Go ahead. Pittsburgh's going to come in there and what?
Pittsburgh's going to come in there with that. Pittsburgh's going to come in there with that mad dog mentality. They're going to come in there. They're going to come in there just as physical as the Titans. I hate to say this, but Pittsburgh is more physical than we can be. And Titans are a physical team. Don't get me wrong, Titan fans. Don't get me wrong, but I got to call it like I see it. Pittsburgh is definitely one of those teams. Their defense reminds me like a pack of pit bulls. That's just what.
Well, speaking of a pack of pit bulls, you know who Derrick Henry reminds me of? There's only one running back that runs like that in the last 10 years. Does he not ring a bell? Do you know who I'm talking about? He's still in the league.
Go ahead.
Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, he does.
He reminds me of an Adrian Peterson right now. Like, this his resiliency, the way he's running, his fearless ability to run the ball, and just his ability to have the vision, to be able to see the vision and run through the holes. Like, that reminds me of Adrian Peterson. Like, Adrian Peterson didn't care. He gave him the ball, he found ways through the hole, and he just ran. And that's the same thing that Derrick Henry's reminding me of.
The one thing I'm liking about what I'm seeing from Derrick Henry, because usually during the first couple of games of the season, he usually doesn't get going until mid-season or late season. But this time around, he's actually getting going like early, and which is good because I know in the last year he didn't get going until mid-season, but we needed him to get going like early, and that's the thing about it. But another part of me that reminds me of, he reminds me a little bit of Eddie George, a little bit with the stiff arming.
Okay.
And I know that Eddie George has been a real big mentor to him around here, and being in his ear. And Derrick Henry, though, when he came in from the Titans, I know he was sharing the load with DeMarco Murray, and people were like, Derrick Henry, he runs so much in Alabama, he's not going to be anything.
Yeah.
I kept telling people, and when I went to those Titan training camps, I'm like, this kid's going to be a stud.
Facts.
I mean, you guys may not think that now.
Facts.
He is going to be up there, and he's going to be one of those people that teams are going to be like, do I really have to tackle this man? I mean, let me ask anybody this. I mean, I know I play football, but if I see a 6'4", 245-pound man who could run a 4.3 coming at me full speed ahead,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to go ahead, man. The best way to do with him. The fact about Derrick Henry is, you see some of his workout videos. If you go on his Twitter, you look at some of his workout videos he had even during the pandemic and before training camp.
Damn.
This guy is like a well-oiled machine. And
they're calling him King Henry now.
The only way I see the Titans struggling is if some big injury happens to him.
See, that's my main concern. Because, it's all fun and games the first, 5 or 6 weeks. But once you hit November and December, that's when that repetition starts wearing and tearing on the body. And then, you either had your bye earlier on in the season or whenever you had it. And it always comes down to injuries.
Injuries make or break a team, no matter who you are. And if since they COVID scare, we got no bye week now. So now we have to go through this stretch with Pittsburgh, and then we got Chicago, and then we got the Colts twice. We got Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, Green Bay. Then we got to go back against Jacksonville, face you guys one more time. And, so this is not an easy stretch.
Honestly, you know who doesn't get enough credit that should get credit for the Titans' success is Mike Vrabel. And the only reason why I say that is because if you look at all the head coaches that have left New England and that have went to Houston, Matt Patricia in Detroit, and all these other guys that have were under the Patriots regime and went to coach elsewhere, the only head coach other than, I guess if you want to say Bill O'Brien, that's fine because he's had playoff experiences. Mike Vrabel's probably the only head coach that I can see that, and even in a short term, has had major success other than Bill O'Brien, like in that whole Patriots regime. In fact, people are saying that Mike Vrabel is the best head coach out of the Bill Belichick regime, besides obviously Bill Belichick himself. You know.
The one thing I loved is when Vrabel was in the playoffs against the Patriots, he was trolling the shit out of Bill Belichick with those punts and kneeling. That to me was just classic. You know the headmaster, so you go what you know. But the one thing about Vrabel that I love about him is the fact that he's got that intensity like he did when he played, and when he's on the practice field, he puts the pads on. He goes and hits the guys too. I mean, he's out there banging with the guys. I mean, he's basically showing them, hey, this is what I want from you. This is what I expect from you. And coaches need to be like that. I mean, I wish, more players who are coaches would be great. I mean, Vrabel's showing right now that, hell, he learned a lot in New England. He also coached under Urban Meyer in Ohio State.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. So he coached under that, and then, he was, I think he was y'all's linebacker coach.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's learned under Belichick, Urban Meyer, Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, you learn it from one of the best college coaches, and you learn from one of the best head coaches in the league. So,
dude, I'd have to say if the Titans do run the table and win the Super Bowl this year, I'd actually be very happy because I remember back in 2000 the Titans were supposed to win that year, and that would have been nice because only 5. Okay, hey, let's play a little trivial. 5 Houston Oilers played for the Titans that year they made the Super Bowl. Who are they?
Oh, fuck. Damn.
I'm going to test your knowledge just to see.
Jeez. I have to go all the way back to that one. I think I know Chris Sanders was on there.
Yeah.
I know that it was Eddie George and Steve McNair.
Yeah.
And, forgot I think, was it Del Greco the other one?
No, Del Greco played for us. Was he else kicker?
Yeah. He was
okay, then it's 6 then. Okay, then he's one. Okay, I'll give you a hint. He was the guy that made the catch but missed a touchdown by a yard.
Kevin Dyson.
Yeah, yep.
Dyson.
And then last but not least, on your offensive lineman,
Bruce Matthews.
There you go. His son plays for the Falcons right now.
I tell you what, those Matthew boys are just as good as those Watt boys. And people say stuff about J.J. Watt, but his brother on Pittsburgh is just as... That kid's just as good.
Oh, yeah. Was it not Derek Watt, but T.J. Watt?
T.J. Watt,
yeah. Yeah, he's pretty good. And, J.J. got his 99th career sack already, so he's probably he's gonna get over 100, obviously. But, I mean, obviously, when the time is up for J.J., as much as I like him, unless the Texans go all out next year and just start spending the free agency and start acquiring like a Super Bowl team, and they really, really go out and spend on some like legitimate receivers, legitimate defensive guys, and the secondary guys, bring in somebody like an Asante Samuels or something here. Like, I mean, just something that is going to fire up the defense. I think JJ really needs to maybe play with his brothers for like the rest of his career in Pittsburgh. I think it would make sense for him to do that.
I think JJ Watt has the mentality. A lot of people wouldn't say this, but JJ Watt's got the mentality. I think he would be a good head coach somewhere. I really do. I think JJ Watt has that mindset, kind of like a Vrabel, where he would be. I think JJ Watt could be a really good linebacker coach or defensive end coach.
Well, he's 31 right now, so he'll be 33 as an unrestricted free agent. So he'll be 32 next year, and then after his last year, what is next year, he'll be 33 as an unrestricted free agent. Maybe the Titans could give him a 2-year deal or something,
Well, he does come to Nashville a lot because he's a big fan of country music. I've seen him at the award shows a few times, and I know he does like coming here. So I don't know if that's one of the things. I mean, I would roll out the red carpet for him.
If the Titans win the Super Bowl this year, I wonder what your emotion is going to be. Feeling reaction. I mean, I know it's early in the season, but if you hoist that Lombardi trophy, imagine the snakes that would come out of you the next day.
Oh my God. My first reaction would be kind of a little bit of tears and a sigh, like, finally, this happened. But another part of me would be like, I have a problem with bandwagon fans. And it's bad here in Nashville, let me tell you. I mean, I know we're talking about football, but when the Preds here in the NHL, when the Preds went to the Stanley Cup and faced the Penguins.
Yeah, I remember that.
Everybody came out of the woodwork going, hey, I'm a Preds fan. I'm like, fuck you. No.
Well, to be fair, usually whenever a team starts winning and they get the notoriety that people come out of nowhere and support the city in which they reside. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I think what for me is I went to a lot of training camps and I worked with the Titans training camp a few times, and I've seen some of the guys that go there and they get their autograph signed and then they're selling it on eBay right after they do it. And they're the ones who are not in the stands when we used to have all those full stands of 60,000 people. So I know, and I've noticed now that when the Titans are winning, now that I've seen I go to gas station stores, I see people wearing more Titan stuff, and I'm sitting there thinking, and then I've talked to people who said, well, I like them now because they're winning again. And I'm like, all I want to do is just throat punch the hell out of you for saying that. Because I'm one of those loyal guys that I'm with you to the end. I mean, good, bad, and ugly. And I've seen the good.
Well, one thing I will say is the Titans and the Jaguars they're probably in the top 5 with the best NFL jerseys. Like the Jaguars, like when they had those dark color jerseys on, like back when David Garrard played for them, they had some pretty cool jerseys. And the Titans, with respect, y'all got pretty cool jerseys too.
Yeah, I like our new jerseys. At first I didn't know what to think of it, but then I'm like, they grew on me and stuff like that. Some people are still hoping one day we will wear a red jersey. And there's been rumblings about it for a while about us wearing a red jersey, but hopefully sometime in the near future we might do it.
You know what I would like? Since y'all technically still own the rights to the Oilers, y'all could do a throwback Oilers.
They talked. I mean, they should do something like that. But I mean, also too, I kind of semi-agree with JJ Watt one time because he did say, hey, they should give us back the rights to the Oilers. I don't know. I mean, I look at it like this. I mean, and I saw your video about it. I mean, let's look at how it was. I mean, they wanted a new stadium. And Bud Adams was pitching in, like, what was he pitching in, like 30% of it?
Yeah, 30%, and then the rest of the city. And then, we went through, like, 2 different... Well, because I had to do my homework on this, Like, we went through the energy crisis in the 70s. We went through oil shortage in the 80s, like, mini recessions, So the city of Houston, they couldn't afford to, like, a new stadium. And, like, Bud Adams wanted one. He didn't want to wait. And then the contract was up in 97. And he was like, I want a new stadium. I want a new stadium. I want a new stadium. When the contract's up, I want a new stadium. And they're like, well, we just can't. We don't have the money. Like, because then the taxpayers would have to pay. And it was just a lot of, it was the numbers. And he's like, okay, I'll pay 40%. And they're like, no, you're going to have to pay 75. You're going to have to pay 75% out of your pocket if you want it, like, the timing in which you want it. And he just like, no, I can't afford it. And then when the mayor of Nashville came and said, hey, well, we got the stadium over here you guys could play in. And like from a business decision, like if I'm in Bud's shoes, I'm probably going to move because it makes sense.
And yeah, I mean, I remember when our city voted on it. A lot of people were for it. Some people were against it.
Well, look, here's the thing. A lot of people said, well, hey, the Nashville Oilers were the first, I think, 2 seasons. Y'all were the Nashville Oilers. The reason why is because when Bud Adams, his contract was up in 97, and they stopped airing the Oilers games. They started airing all the Rockets preseason games, and they stopped airing the Oilers games. So he pissed him off. So he's like, okay, well, I want out of my contract, right? I'm not playing the next year. Like, I'm just gonna not put my players on the field. So they're like, okay, fine, you get out of your contract a year early. So he leaves in '96, but he still had to wear the Oilers uniforms. So in Nashville, he just kept the Nashville Oilers for 2 years. I don't know if you remember that, but
yeah, they called us. It was the Tennessee Oilers. 1 year we played in Memphis, which is about 2 to 3 hours from.
Oh, I didn't know that. Y'all played in Memphis?
We played in Memphis 1 year. And
what stadium did y'all play in? Do you remember?
We were playing, I think, Memphis Tigers.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then we played a little bit in Vanderbilt, and we were just trying to get, I think it was either Vanderbilt or TSU, one of the two, for Nashville. But we were doing that so our stadium can get built. Yeah. So that's, and then when that happened, they unveiled the Titans.
Dude, I heard that y'all stadium looks real nice. Like, when y'all, regardless of whether there's LP Field or whatever y'all called it. Dude, I heard that stadium looks real nice.
They have put new seats on there now, and now when you look at the blue, they have like white tints to them that spells Titans out.
Ooh.
And, so yeah, the stadium's old. Don't get me wrong, the stadium was in '99, but they do keep the stadium pretty nice. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. They used to have. I mean, sometimes the TSU Tigers will play there, and then there are some times that we'll have some soccer playing there. Now we're getting our own soccer team now. So,
Nate, do you remember the year that the Titans were trolling the Texans? It was back in y'all had Vince Young and who was y'all's running back that year? It wasn't Eddie George? It was not Travis Henry. What was it? Johnson or something like that? Was it Chris Johnson?
I don't know if it was Chris. It might have been Chris Johnson, or it might have been Chris Brown. I don't know.
No, it was Chris Johnson. Anyways, I remember you guys lost like 5 in a row, or the first 6 games of the season, and then you won 5 in a row, and you played against us, and we played y'all in Tennessee, and y'all beat us in overtime. And I saw Bud Adams, and he was doing this to the Texans bench because, like, the camera zoomed. Do you remember that? They zoomed in on him, and he started going like this. I don't know if you remember that, but Bud Adams did do that because, like, our owner was cursing him out. Like, they had a cursing match, and after you guys won, like, they're like, hey, look at Bud Adams. They zoomed in, and he was like this, like. Did they check this out? Check this out. They said that the Tennessee Titans hold the only record in NFL history. Check this out. They're the first team in NFL history to start the season 0-6 and finish with a 500 record.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And that was. I remember the game we had where Vince Young had that game in Houston where he ran it all the way down the field against you guys.
And he ran the ball like 60 yards in the end zone and won in overtime. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the 2009 season. And then check this out. And then all the fans in Houston were rooting for Vince Young because he went to Madison here and then University of Texas. So everybody was just rooting for Vince Young. So they was like, fuck it. Like it was a win-win.
Honestly, about Vince Young, I will say this much. When Jeff Fisher was coach here, or as some of us Titan fans, we had to call him 500 Jeff, under 500, below 500, because we like to make fun of him always being 8-8 or 7-9. So, the one thing about him is I don't think he treated Vince Young very good.
No.
And I really wish that we would have kept Steve McNair that year and had him learn under Steve McNair.
Ooh.
I think that would have been the better thing to do because at that time, him and Vince were close.
Yeah.
So I think that would have been a lot better off instead of him going to Baltimore and playing in Baltimore. We could have kept Steve McNair, had him mentor Vince Young, and but we all know Jeff Fisher. He didn't want Vince Young at first. I think he was looking at Matt Leinart and Jay Cutler. Now we see how that turned out with Jay Cutler. But honestly, if I would have done that draft, I would have took Vince Young over them both too. Honestly.
Yeah. But to be honest with you, man, Vince Young had a lot of problems, dude. He, the strip club and then he had issues with his uncle, where his uncle supposedly took a lot of money from him. And honestly, dude, he was a big head case, man. And it was so unfortunate because I said for years the Texans should have signed him, and they never did. And then the Eagles picked him up in 2012, that was like probably his last okay to decent year. And he was like third string that year, came in, didn't do too bad. But, man, honestly, I said the Texans should have signed him, and we never did. And after, like, 2015, I just gave up because I'm like, oh, he's too old now. Because the fucker's like 40 now, so there's no way.
He's probably over there hanging out with Pac-Man.
Yeah, he probably. Man, it's just unfortunate, man, because I think Vince Young could have had if you looked at the career he had, like, early in his professional years, I think if he would have kept his head on straight. And then, of course, Jeff Fisher was one of them old school coaches that, like, you do what I say. And the players of, even back then, at that time in the late 2000s, were the players today where I don't listen to you, you listen to me, blah, blah, blah. So, like, you're going to clash between coaches and players now, because back then, players, you always do what your coach does. Now it's like if your players don't like you, they can fire you if they're very good. If they're like a franchise player or something, they could do a Tom Brady and say, I don't like this guy, or LeBron James, or get rid of this guy, and they'll fire him. And I think this Jeff Fisher, I think like the times of the NFL caught up to him with his old school tactics. That's like when Mike Singletary came in and he got into it with Vernon Davis for the Niners. And then he's like, well, if you don't like it, then fucking go home. And then the Niners could never win when he was there. But when he left, the Harborough came in and brought him the Super Bowl. But everybody didn't realize that it was Harborough ran the table that Mike Singletary built. It's just Mike Singletary couldn't discipline those guys because of his old school tactics.
And that's one thing I like about Vrabel, is Vrabel's a very disciplinary guy. And,
okay.
And if he has a problem with something, he's not one of those guys, like, he will address you, but he'll address you in front of the team. Like, he won't take your shit.
See, I like when Mike Vrabel, I think he's like one step away from saying do your job, just like Belichick. Like, that would be cool if he did that and said, hey, I know this is the Patriots slogan, but I used to work there. That's my slogan, do your job. And he puts it on the locker.
He puts, from what I heard, Vrabel puts a lot. There's a podcast, if I don't see it on YouTube, but there's a guy, so Taylor Wan does a podcast called Bustin' with the Boys. And it's a podcast, he has some players come in, some Titan legends too. But he had Vrabel on there one time. Vrabel's over there just smoking a cigar, drinking Jack with him, and just talking shit. I mean, that's what Vrabel is.
So Vrabel's is like a player's guy. He's like he's like drinking with one of the boys.
Yeah, he's drinking with the boys. He's basically like, look, he basically said, look, if you pull that shit again, I'll bitch you. I mean, he's like that. He's that kind of joking guy. But one thing I know about him is that when bulletin board, like when they faced the Patriots, and then they went in there and faced Baltimore in the playoffs, he posted on there, everybody is going against you guys. No one's picking you to beat Baltimore. And it motivated them to go into Baltimore and do what they did. I mean, and that's something that Vrabel does. And I think he learned that from Belichick. Belichick is... Now, I hope we don't learn the Spygate and all that other shit. I mean, I'm sorry, Patriot fans, just have to throw it out there. But, as long as they don't learn that, we're good.
Well, I got to say, at 5-0, I'm pretty impressed. And honestly, I think if this Steelers game, if you can win this one and go 6-0, I think now we can finally say that this is the real deal. Like, this team is maybe they may finish 14-2, who knows, or 13-3. Like, what are your expectations by the end of the year, win and loss wise? I mean, it's so early, but what do you think they finish?
If we could beat Pittsburgh, and that's the big if we could beat Pittsburgh, I see us going 14-2, 13-3 if we beat Pittsburgh. Now, if we lose to Pittsburgh, I see us going maybe 12-4, 11-5.
Okay, now let's say you go 13-3 or 14-2. Do you think that's enough to lock up the number 1 seed over Kansas City and them?
I think it's enough. I really do. I mean, Kansas City, I think what Kansas City mean, like, you know, and if you saw with the Raiders, I mean, let's face it, Kansas City's a better team than the Raiders.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it out there. I mean, I know Pistol and all of them are big Raider fans, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Kansas City is they're still the defending champs, no matter what you say. And with Kansas City, I look at it like this. When you face a division team that knows you very well, it's a different ball game. I mean, look at the NFC East, for crying out loud. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
No, you ain't lying. You ain't lying. And like I said, we still got a long way to go. Like, we're just barely 5 games in with 11 to go, and then still the playoffs. So,
well, from what I heard, the Titans might do, and this is something that they learned from the NBA. This is a rumor going around Nashville that the possibility of the Titans team all staying in a hotel together or just staying close by to their training facility, so that way it eliminates anybody else getting the COVID.
So it's like your own bubble almost.
Almost like that, yeah. So the only time they travel is when they go have to travel, which would take the players away from their families. I get that, but it also keeps them more focused and keeps them safe too. So
at the same time, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, if I was a player of the Titans and I knew I had to do it, I'd be like, look, where's my cot? I'll stay here.
You're making millions of dollars, so why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
No risk, no reward.
Now, the one thing I will say is I haven't watched the NFL much this year because I'm really not. I'm one of those people that I don't like propaganda being spoken to me while I'm watching a game.
I feel the same way.
I look at it like this. If I'm watching a game, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, I want to get away from all the shit that's going on in my life, personally, whatever, stuff like that. You want to watch a game, you want to have fun. It's almost like going to the cinematic adventure, going to your theater, and you're like,
yeah,
ooh, you're getting to watch this. You don't want to have stuff shoved down your throat. That's just me.
It takes you out of like a stressful living environment, and then it puts you in like sort of virtual reality. It sort of suppresses the mind.
That's why I didn't really finish watching the NBA season. I really didn't watch the finals because I was like, I really didn't want to see it.
Facts.
I really didn't want to see it. I mean, baseball is a little bit better with it. I mean, I still do watch the baseball, but I mean,
I think Tennessee should get a baseball team. Do you think that they're ever going to put a team in Nashville?
It's funny that you mentioned that because there was talks about, cause I know we have a minor league team, but there's been talks about us possibly getting a major league team.
Really?
Yeah, there's been talks about it. They're talking about doing an expansion, and I know Tennessee is basically going, hey, over here.
Yeah, I think Nashville or Memphis more college and basketball and football than anything. Well, no, I think
Knoxville's more of that, of that college football, UT and everything like that. Memphis, I wouldn't trust Memphis.
Where would you put a baseball team at? Where would you put a baseball team in Nashville, right?
Well, there's this place right next to Nissan Stadium. It's right off the river, but it's like a junkyard. But it's just like when you drive on the highway, it looks so tacky, but it's such a big space that you could put a baseball diamond there. It's a really big space. I mean, it's really big right next to Nissan Stadium. I think it could be possibly the area to put the baseball stadium at.
I think Nashville could also get a basketball team, too. I know Memphis has one, but I think Nashville should get one.
Well, Nashville does have, like I said, they have where the Preds play. We have that area where we can have them come in, and we do some of the. We have done some NCAA stuff. We have done some of the SEC college men and women's basketball stuff.
Oh, cool.
So we have done that at the you know, at the arena. But I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool to actually have a basketball team. I mean,
you guys got NASCAR there?
we actually almost one point we actually had a NASCAR track.
Yeah.
We were doing not NASCAR, but we were doing the one below NASCAR, like the little level below NASCAR.
Okay.
And then we had this big track, and then they stopped using it. And I'm sitting there looking at that track like, build some more railings up in this shit and put some NASCAR in there. I mean, that's just facts for me. I mean, I wish that, and then plus, I kind of wish WrestleMania would come to Nashville for Titan Stadium because it really is pretty. I mean, I really do think I wish that they would do that.
Yeah, have y'all had WrestleMania there?
I wish they would.
They didn't put WrestleMania in Memphis, did they?
No, they didn't put them near Memphis or Knoxville, but Knoxville with Neon Stadium of the Tennessee Vols, they could fit 100,000 people inside that stadium. Now, but it's not as pretty as the Titans. It's not as pretty as Nissan Stadium. It really isn't. I think if you get Nissan Stadium there's a lot of wrestling fans. I mean, like, there's times when I went to some of the Raw and SmackDown shows, and I've even won some of the NXT shows, back then some of the WCW shows. The stadiums get packed. The arena gets packed.
Wasn't TNA in Nashville?
Yeah.
Well, what part of it?
Yeah. When they first started out, they were at the fairgrounds, which was a very big thing for USWA with Jerry Lawler's company back then. He used to come here a lot. But we used to have it was called the Asylum back then. And then we went to the Missile Auditorium where they had some of the WCW and old WWF shows. And then they just moved everything to Florida. Now, TNA used to have an office downtown Nashville. It used to be right next to the boxing gym that I went to.
And did you actually ever go in there?
No, but one time when I was at the boxing gym, Dixie Carter came in.
Really?
And she was on the treadmill, and I was trying to get behind her because she had this big giant book, and I think it was the script of the show.
Yeah.
So I was trying to take a peek and see, well, okay, what the hell are they got on this show today? I mean, like,
Didn't Dixie Carter sell TNA?
I believe so, yeah. Now it's just called Impact Wrestling, which actually I'm kind of digging what they do. I've kind of been digging what they've been doing lately, but I will say this though, and I know you post this a lot, and I'm glad that you do, but I wish people would support independent wrestling more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Honestly, we used to have a lot here in Nashville, and then a lot of these companies just folded and died because people didn't come to support it. But honestly, these independent wrestlers, they can be just as good, if not better, than those guys you see on TV.
Honestly, some of the storylines on these smaller shows are better than WWE. Like, I haven't even watched a WWE match in like 2 years, and honestly, I don't even miss any of it. And like, I've had people tell me, well, how can you sit there and watch a show full of nobodies? And I'm like, well, because the storylines sell. That's why.
The last time I watched a wrestling show, I think I watched Taker's last match in that WrestleMania 36.
Yeah.
With the biker Taker. That was probably the last thing that
Okay, I'll admit that was a good match.
That was the last thing I saw. Then if y'all have the network, I would advise everybody to watch that Taker documentary. It's really good.
Oh, it's about his life or what?
Yeah, about his life, about how he went from that concussion with Brock Lesnar all the way to all these injuries he had to do.
Oh, I didn't know he had a concussion in the Brock Lesnar match.
Yeah, that's the reason why they ended it the way they did, because he doesn't remember when he got knocked silly. It was just like right after the match was over, he fell going behind the curtain. That's when Vince and Brock actually rode with him to the hospital, because he didn't even remember what the fuck happened. And then you see Taker's injury when he faced Roman Reigns, that little hip surgery he had to do, and it shows one thing to me, and that's Taker's one tough motherfucker. I mean, I gotta throw it out there. He is probably one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion.
Oh, I'd have to say so too, man. And like, he was supposed to retire, like when he the match he lost to Reigns, and then he just came back after that a couple more times. I guess he felt like he still had some gas in the tank, you know?
Not to be a spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it, but Taker does retire on the documentary.
What, really?
He does say that he doesn't know how much he's got left, and you know how Vince is. I'm sure Vince dangles the cheese and
so like what did Taker say in the documentary that made you think he's retiring? Like he just flat out said, I'm gonna go?
He pretty much said that he said, I'm comfortable now in my own skin to walk away. He said, I'm comfortable now to where I could just walk away. He's like, I want to spend more time. I want to be able to walk around and carry my kids and be able to be with my wife. And I knew something was up because Taker was doing a lot of interviews on YouTube and all over around, just showing his regular self. And I'm sitting there thinking, Taker never does that. And that was a little bit. And he mentioned the whole Sting thing to most of the wrestling fans out there.
Yeah,
he does mention why didn't Undertaker and Sting happen. He says the match looks great on paper. I mean, the feud will look good on paper, but he doesn't think him and Sting could deliver.
Really?
Yeah. So he said it was just too late, too little, too late.
I think if they would have done it maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it would have looked cooler.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, but yeah, I mean, Taker mentioned something about Vince never really likes when someone says the word retire. But he said if he does come back, that he would be the biker Taker. So,
honestly, I hate this as much. Like, I thought when he fought CM Punk, he should have did the Taker gimmick. I mean, the biker gimmick.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people thought with that. But yeah, I mean, I'll just say this much. If you got some independent wrestling in your cities, I would tell people to go support it, honestly, because, I mean, some of these guys, this could be their chance to get back into the big league. Some of these guys in independent shows used to be with ECW or TNA or WWE.
Yeah, Sammy Guevara, he wrestles for AEW. He used to wrestle for ROW, which is Booker T's Reality Wrestling, and then he used to wrestle for DZW, which is the one my uncle wrestles for, Undisputed Pro Wrestling and Domination Zone Wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I would tell people that's just go out there and support that because, you know,
tickets are cheap, concession stands are cheap, and you get a really decent show too.
Yeah, and the fans really get into it. I've seen some of them at these independent shows, and they really.
Have you ever gone to an independent show?
Into it and, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen fans. There was one show I went to where fans it was a hardcore match, and fans got to bring weapons.
Ooh.
And yeah, it was fun. I don't know why you think Steelers are going to win.
Yeah, like elaborate on it. Yeah.
Elaborate on it. I mean, now I have caught some stuff with the TTC over the all season. Me and you both have. That was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say any names. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
But I will say though, it is funny though to watch some of these guys. Watch some of the old guys I used to go head to head with, and I mean your video with you having to crack an egg over your head and pour that stuff in the bathtub.
Oh yeah, that was LC Muscle's beer, dude. That beer was so cold, bro. When I poured it over, I had brain freeze, so my shoulder started stiffening up on me, and I didn't know if I was able to finish the entire beer, but I just did it and I fought through it, dude. I'm never doing a bet like that again unless if it's a small beer. And it's got to be room temperature, too.
See, that's one thing. Now, it's one thing to drink a nice, crisp, cold beer, but it's another thing to have it poured on you. You drink it. Pour it, though.
And that 32-ounce Budweiser was literally sitting in ice. It was freezing because the minute I poured it over my head, it started freezing in my brain.
Man, I remember I did the ice bucket thing once. I don't know if y'all remember the ice bucket.
Yeah, the ice bucket challenge like 2-3 years ago.
Brain freeze like a motherfucker.
Yep.
I mean, that's just. But yeah, I mean, the Titan stuff I would like to do. I would like to do more. Like, I would like to do stuff with the Vols and Titans and just, you know, talking about stuff like that. I mean, I don't really follow hockey much. I mean, I know some people like he do Preds videos. I'm like, I I'm not really much of a hockey guy. Michael, basically, he was a demon in practice from what I hear.
Okay, so let me ask you this, just to clear up everything. Not as a team or record or rings, you took all the stats away and you based it on the individual of the player's ability on the court. Jordan and LeBron, what do you think the pros and cons are?
The pros were Mike. Mike was a killer, plain and simple. Mike was the guy, MJ was the guy that would go to your locker room, which he did. I've heard stories. He would go into people's locker rooms and go, "Who's guarding me?" He's like, "I'm going to drop 50 on you tonight."
Oh.
I mean, Michael would literally do that, and he would literally go and drop 50 on somebody. Now, the one thing about Jordan that people talk about is scoring and stuff like that, but Michael was a great defender as well. Like, he was all defensive as well. Mm-hmm. And the one thing with LeBron is LeBron's not that, to me, LeBron's not a better defender. LeBron can be a better defender.
Okay.
LeBron has all-around talent. Like, LeBron, the great passer.
Okay.
He's got a really great IQ on the court. They both got an IQ on the court. If they were to go one-on-one, obviously LeBron's 6'8", 6'9", so he's got that wingspan over Michael.
Yeah.
He's also, like, I think he's also, 230, 240, 250?
Yeah.
As far as weight. So there's not really fair, and that's not really a fair contest. But the one thing I would say to Michael is, Michael never got the chance, and he said this in the last documentary. It was episode 10 of The Last Dance.
Yeah. They
actually had an opportunity. They offered Phil and Michael to stay in during that little lockout season. Not many people know that. And Phil turned it down, and then Mike turned it down. But Mike said the one thing that he always regretted, he wanted to know how it felt to lose the NBA Finals. He never got that opportunity to have somebody come in there and knock him off. And
did he say why he didn't stay with the Bulls?
He didn't want to play for another coach. I mean, like, if Phil would have stayed, he would have stayed.
Oh.
And then Dennis would have stayed, and then I think Scotty would have stayed. And I think they would have tried to go for that. They probably would have tried to go for that 4-peat.
Oh.
Against San Antonio that year in '99. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a coulda, woulda, shoulda. But I think with Mike, there's not really many weaknesses with Michael. I think Mike was just the competition with the NBA back then. You know, when you have the Miller, you had the Reggie Millers, nobody really wanted to build a super team. You know, they all wanted to beat the crap out of each other. You had Patrick over there in New York, you had Reggie Miller over here, Shaq's over here, you know, Barkley's over here, that person's over here. And, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't really call Michael and Scotty a super team, even though they're both two of the 50 greatest players. And so a lot of people like to throw that out there. Well, Michael couldn't do it without Scotty. Well, Michael's even admitted he couldn't do it without Scotty. But I say to people, LeBron, when LeBron went to Miami, him, Boss, and Wade should have won more NBA Finals than what they won.
Facts.
They should have won a lot more than what they won. They should have beat Dallas that year. I mean, there's no reason why Dallas beats them in the NBA Finals. But, I mean, with LeBron, though, I will say this, though. One thing I say about LeBron is he is on my Mount. He's on my Mount Rushmore. I mean, I respect his game. The one thing I don't like about LeBron is when he comes out after the Lakers win, he goes, "I demand respect. I want my respect." I'm sitting there thinking, you want your respect. Well, maybe if you didn't lose like 6 NBA Finals, and you actually would have won all of your NBA. If he would have won every single one that he was in,
yeah,
then we'll be talking a different game.
Yeah.
But it's still, I will say, it's impressive that he did go. He won one in LA. He won one in Miami and Cleveland. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Absolutely impressive. But I will say this to people. You know, you got to think about it. If Michael didn't retire after '93, and he would have played those 82 games in 93, 94, and then 94, 95, and they would have played that lockout game, that lockout season. I mean, we don't know. I mean, Houston would have been tough. I know you guys would have been tough.
Yeah.
During the NBA Finals, I think the thing is, Jordan. One thing I'll tell everybody with LeBron and Michael's never went to a Game 7 in the NBA Finals.
Damn.
And he's never lost an NBA Finals. So I know people get sick of that, because I got some people who are LeBron fans that are like, yeah, well, he's a better passer, he's a better rebounder, and I'm like, yeah, but Michael was the guy that would go and score on the best defender, and then he would go down there and he would guard Reggie Miller. He would guard Magic Johnson.
Oh, you're right.
So, I mean, Michael would go after the best players, and that's one thing I liked about Kobe. Kobe would go right after the best guy. I mean, and that's just...
Okay, so who do you think's better between Kobe and Jordan? Now, that's a tough one.
I think Kobe was a better three-point shooter. I think Kobe had a better jump shot. Michael, he obviously he learned to fade away from Michael, because Michael told him on the game, like, look, you gotta watch how the defender does this. And Kobe was a lot more. I think Kobe was meaner than Michael. From the stories I heard, Kobe was meaner.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael remembers a story that when he went to go, I think Phil's first year in L.A., Michael comes and visits, and Ahmad Rashad's there with Michael. Michael has his gym bag with him.
Yeah.
And Phil's like, hey, man, can you go talk to Kobe, talk to him. First thing he does when he comes into the room, Kobe's like, man, you better put your gym shorts on. I'm about to whoop your ass.
Damn.
I think Michael's like, you can't guard me. He's like, you can't guard me. I mean, that's just... That's one thing I loved about it. And I used to play pickup basketball games where I was at. The competition, we would not put better players. We would not put the best players together, because it would be like we want to kill each other. That's just. And one thing when I see these leagues and I hear that rumor that there's a possibility that the Lakers want to try to get Chris Paul, I look at it like, this is not I want to play with my friend league. It's supposed to be competition. You're supposed to go after the best players in the league. And I'm supposed to be like, hey, well, since we're buddies, we need to play together.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I look at that and I'm like, think about it this way. Michael could have left Chicago back then. He could have joined L.A. and played with Magic.
Oh.
I mean, if he really wanted to, he could have went and played with Barkley. I mean, there's things that he could have done, but Michael didn't do that. And for a guy who was in his 40s, the man was still averaging 20-something points a game with the Wizards.
Yep.
So, I mean, we want to go out there, yes. At the end of the time, LeBron's stats will probably be up there. I mean, I know he's third in all-time. He's third in all-time scoring. Yeah. I think he's 8th or 6th in assists or steals or something like that. And so LeBron still looks like, from what I'm seeing, though, it doesn't look like he's lost anything in the tank.
Do you think he'll break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record all-time in points?
I think if anyone got a shot at it, LeBron's got a shot.
They're saying LeBron might get 40,000 by the time he retires, which no NBA player has gotten 40,000. That's not bad.
So, yeah, I mean, that's really not bad. And I think in that sense of the word, I mean, if we're talking about intellectual, like, who's done what, I mean, they're both NBA champions. They're both NBA Finals MVPs. They're both MVPs. They both have won Rookie of the Year. They both have gotten Olympic gold medals. They're on the poster of everything. They're the poster child of the NBA. LeBron's the poster child of the NBA. But if I'm looking at it from a statistic point, I'm an old school basketball guy. I don't see anybody out there, maybe besides Kobe, I haven't seen anybody out there that has that killer instinct like Mike had. And until I see, that's one thing with LeBron. I don't see that killer instinct in LeBron. And that's the one thing I'm always looking at him, I'm like, man, he's a great passer. He's a great, he's got the mechanics. But if LeBron actually The one thing I don't like about LeBron is LeBron brings political shit into the game.
Yeah.
That's one thing about Michael. They talk about that in the documentary. Michael had a chance to, I think in North Carolina, he had a chance to support this black governor, or was running for governor. Michael didn't want to do it because Michael looked at it like, hey, I'm a businessman, so I need to look at my brand. I need to look at it and be like, hey, not only, it's not just the white Americans, it's the African Americans, it's the Hispanics that are buying my stuff. So I have to. LeBron's just like doom 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 doom, and I'm sitting there like, the one thing with Michael didn't go out there and he didn't sit there and goes. I remember when the Cavs won that in 2016. I saw a video of LeBron. He's like, when I came back and they came back from that 3-1 deficit and beat Golden State. He's like, I should be the GOAT. And then after the Lakers, he's like, well, I demand respect. I didn't hear Kobe do that. I didn't hear Michael say that. I didn't hear Magic say that. Michael went out there and he demanded respect. Michael got people's respect.
Yeah, and they say respect is not earned. It's not given. It's earned.
It's earned. It's not given.
Yeah.
And yes, I understand LeBron's pissed because people were like, I hate the fact that they carried that Jordan thing over him, and I know that's got to be tough.
Yeah,
like, you have that whole Jordan ghost,
like shadow, yeah,
shadow right there, and what Michael did in the commercial for the NBA 2K game, Michael's like, 6 championships beat your 3.
Oh.
Let's go ahead and clarify it. I mean, Michael could have been Jordan could have been one of those guys that could have went down there and he could have played with his buddies. But from what I heard, I wish I could see the unreleased tapes I wish they showed the Dream Team unreleased tapes. But there was a documentary of the Dream Team in this Last Dance. The stuff, man, Michael and Magic were going, they were cussing each other out. After those practices were over, they would get on the bus and they would get silent.
Damn.
I mean, that's how much they want to kill each other. I mean, that's to me is what I'm looking at. And now when I see Isaiah Thomas come on here and he talks about LeBron being the greatest player, look, Isaiah Thomas is just a nut hugger. First of all, I mean, he's just he just wants to go out there. He just wants to hug on LeBron's nuts because he knows Michael and them kicked his ass. And you can go over there. You can hug LeBron's nuts. You can polish his ball sack for all I care.
So let me ask you this before we close out, man. How many more rings do you think LeBron finishes with?
Well, I look at it like this. I know if Anthony Davis, I don't know what his contract status is. I don't know did they re-sign him? Or
Not yet. He's got one more year.
Okay. They keep Anthony Davis. If they do get that deal with Chris Paul, I say the Lakers win again.
Damn.
I don't see anybody beating them again. But I will say though, I generally enjoyed Jimmy Butler talking shit to them when he was scoring that 40-something points. I was literally enjoying it.
Facts.
Now, the only reason why I think they were all making this a big deal about LeBron, because obviously it's a tragic thing that Kobe died this year. And everybody wanted to see the Lakers probably win because of Kobe.
Yeah.
But I hate to tell you, Laker fans, LeBron cannot lace up Kobe's shoes, and he certainly cannot lace up Magic's. That's the Kobe statue. That's the Magic Johnson statue that you see out there in front of Staples Center. They ain't Kobe. They ain't LeBron's.